Bias blind spot. The tendency to believe that one is less affected by cognitive biases compared to others. Gambler's fallacy. The belief that future probabilities are altered by past events when they are actually unchanged. Omission bias. Judging harmful actions as worse than equally harmful inactions. Proportionality bias. Assuming that big events have big causes. Moral credential effect. Giving oneself permission to be less good in the future after doing something good. Self-serving bias. Claiming more responsibility for successes than failures. Framing effect. Drawing different conclusions from the same information depending on how it's presented. Actor-observer bias. Overemphasizing personality in explaining others' behaviors and underemphasizing it in explaining our own. Picture superiority effect. Concepts learned through pictures are more easily recalled than those learned through written words. Outcome bias. Judging a decision by its eventual outcome rather than its quality at the time. Mere exposure effect. Developing liking or disliking for things merely because they are familiar. Hard-easy effect. Overestimating ability to accomplish hard tasks and underestimating ability to accomplish easy ones. Survivorship bias. Overlooking failures because of their lack of visibility. Bottter-Meinhof phenomenon. Perceiving something recently learned or noticed as appearing frequently shortly afterwards. Availability. Heuristics. Overestimating the likelihood of events that easily come to mind. Dunning-Kruger effect. Unskilled individuals overestimate their own ability, while experts underestimate theirs. Halo effect. Positive or negative traits of a person spill over from one area to another in others' perceptions. Pygmalion effect. Others' expectations of a person affect that person's behavior. Decoy effect. Introducing a third option that influences preference between two options. Selection bias. Introducing bias by selecting individuals, groups, or data in a non-random way. Anchoring bias. Over-reliance on initial information when making decisions. Confirmation bias. Seeking, interpreting, and remembering information that confirms preconceptions. Overconfidence effect. Excessive confidence in one's own answers to questions. Egocentric bias. Relying too heavily on one's own perspective. Information bias. Seeking information when it does not affect action. Hindsight bias. Perceiving past events as more predictable than they actually were. Projection bias. Overestimating how much one's future selves will share one's current preferences. Apophenia bias. Perceiving meaningful connections between unrelated things. Serial position effect. Recalling first and last items in a list better than middle ones. Recency bias. Giving greater importance to the most recent event. Authority bias. Attributing greater accuracy to the opinion of an authority figure. Unit bias. Consuming suggested standard amounts even if inappropriate. Availability. Cascade. Collective belief gains more plausibility through increasing repetition. Bandwagon effect. Doing something because many others do the same. Illusory truth effect. Perceiving previously heard statements as more likely to be true. Next in line effect. Diminished recall for words of the person who spoke immediately before. In-group bias. Giving preferential treatment to perceived in-group members. Spotlight effect. Overestimating the extent to which others notice our appearance or behavior. Choice supportive bias. Remembering choices as better than they actually were. Ostrich effect. Avoiding potentially negative but useful information. Selective perception bias. Not noticing or quickly forgetting stimuli that cause emotional discomfort. Peak end rule. Perceiving an experience based on its peak and how it ended.